getting crazy, baby, chill. Don't medicate, just meditate. You waking up now, well, baby, you hella late. Educate, look at what's going on, let it resonate, accelerate. Find your inner hunger like you never ate. Agenda is to push the hate, separate and segregate. Don't celebrate quite yet, the storm is coming, Q, for heaven's sake. Violence that they demonstrate, instigate and penetrate. The values of our country and our God is what they desecrate. My fighters ain't no featherweight, pulling out the seams of the fabric that they fabricate. They feed us lies, manipulate, intimidate through fear and force, forcing us to sit and wait till we come together, congregate, and then we liberate. Praying that you give me strength to find some love amongst the hate, marching on these streets of blood.
Welcome back to the Tim and Steve Show. I am Tim Beard. As you can see, there's no Steve Morris today. Steve is off in Texas. His mom had surgery, and so he's going to be there until the end of the month taking care of his mom and his dad. And so, yeah, it'll just be me. Hoping to have some special guests come in. Oh, I can't say special guests, but some guest hosts, I guess, come in next week. And a few different ones. I'm trying to work on some stuff because it'll be better than just me doing the show alone. But yeah, it's kind of funny. Steve, he left yesterday and he's talking about his garden, and he said that he went down and like scraped off some sod and different things. And it's kind of funny because, you know, he's been talking about putting this fence up around there. You know, he's got a nice fence, but he wants to put this metal fence up, and he's been talking about the snow being gone, and just looked out there before he started the show, and all the snow is gone. So, hey, Steve, it's ready for you, whenever you get back. And then we'll also call Steve during some of these shows as well. Just kind of doing the show a little early this morning, and he's 2 hours behind. So I didn't want to wake him up too early, which, knowing him, he's probably actually up, being he's there. Sometimes when he's here, it's like, hey, you awake? And I'll wake him up. It's like 8:30, and he's like, I didn't hear my alarm. So I want to thank our sponsors, Sunshine Realty, Teresa Sherman, who I want to actually get in here at some point while Steve's gone, have a conversation about, the real estate market, if you're looking to buy a house, sell your house, things that she could help you on. Is it a good time to sell? Is it a good time to buy? What's, where are things at right now? We know the housing market's been nuts the last couple of years, and we've seen it start to come down a little bit, but she'd be a good person to talk to about that. And, like I said, if you're looking to buy or sell, reach out to Teresa at Sunshine Realty, and she can help you out. But yeah, I want to get her on the show so we can talk about, like, hey, what things are happening out there that, people that are in the market, because we do have a housing crisis in this area, or in New Hampshire in general. We know that. And we talk on the show a lot about Newport and housing, and actually drove up to Spring Street yesterday, and it's funny, I had to stop and wait. They were loading a big excavator on a trailer, and which I was in no big hurry. I just wanted to kind of drive by there because I've seen the excavators and different equipment out there, and they started that project, and that's a 42 or 43 unit apartment complex, or whatever you want to say, with its workforce housing base. So it's based off of income if you work. So, single moms, single dads out there that have a job but can't afford a $1,500 a month apartment, but they work, would qualify. That, they would pay a different fee, a much lower fee to still get, in there. So it's income based. It's not like Section 8 housing or anything like that, which is exactly what we need in Newport. We need this work-based housing that, people are working that want to have a place to stay, but unfortunately we just don't have many places. Our concerns has been, okay, well, there's 42 or 3 units, Sunapee Street 70 units. We've proved a couple other places that were 30 plus units. From what I can see on those, they're not going to be happening anytime soon. But if we do too much, we add too much, if we have the 70, we have the 43, that's a big jump of 113 apartments that potentially could be happening over a period of 1 year. That's a big increase in Newport. I don't know the number, but if we built, 5, 6, 7, 8 houses a year in Newport, that's a huge difference between, okay, there's that, and then here's 113 units. So that's always been the fear is, okay, if we grow too fast, what's going to happen on the school end. On the town end, it's like fine because here's more tax revenue, more sewer revenue, all these different revenues that will come in, but the liability falls on the town. So if the town, we see this increase in taxes for these, 2 units, obviously they'll be high valued and high taxed. Obviously, Newport, we have high taxes, but what's going to happen to the school? If the 70 units brings in, 30 kids, okay, if they're all spread out in different grades, maybe not a huge impact, but that's a lot of kids. But then you have Spring Street. So out of 113 units, if you had 1 kid per unit, the school can't handle another 113 kids. And you could say, well, some people are going to move from the apartment they're in now to this place. True, but someone's going to fill that opening at the other place. We're not going to suddenly have a surplus of housing and we won't need, vacancies everywhere. It's not going to happen. Supposedly in the state of New Hampshire, we're 20,000 houses or apartments or whatever, places to stay short, which I believe it. I think COVID, what happened, and we've seen it with our own eyes in Newport, is a lot of people from out of state came here, bought properties at stupidly high rates. I couldn't understand places were being built during COVID when everything was at least double the cost of what it would be, not so much now, but say back to a more normal time, like 5 years ago. Things have come down, but still it's extremely expensive to build. And I don't understand how these out-of-staters could buy houses up here and then either live in them or not live in them. A lot of them just bought them and then they just own them. They're not even living in them, that's a house that someone that actually wants to live here, work here, whatever, doesn't have access to. So I'm sure that increased the demand on housing. But we had a housing issue before that. But so yeah, they're saying we're 20,000 units short. Obviously, not in Newport. We had spread that out across the state. Southern New Hampshire will need obviously more housing than we have, need up here. But so I definitely see there's definitely housing. I know people that are looking for places and just can't find them. It's a big concern. If Ruger is expanding or trying to hire people, but they can't get anyone to come here working because, well, you have no place to live. If Ruger decides at some point it's not sustainable to be in Newport, New Hampshire anymore, we need to move to wherever. That would be a huge hurt to our town, much bigger hurt than just, a bunch of extra kids in the school too. So I checked that out. I just, swung by there. I know it was a very controversial thing, and I'm on the zoning board, and we heard there was a special exception, I believe, for that case. But the hard thing was on Spring Street, the other side of Spring Street, so like the Claremont side of Spring Street was residential R1 zoning, but where the housing unit is industrial zoning, so they could do anything there. They could put a bus barn in, they could put in anything. Like there's like the list of things they could do there is practically anything. The special exception was for the housing thing, which honestly fits the neighborhood better than, a big bus place or a bank, or because all those things could happen without zoning approval. There would be, okay, we're going to put a bank in here. And I know like the road and speeding and all this is all concerns that everyone has, and hopefully it works out and no increased accidents or anything once the place is built. And then hopefully we'll see some sort of relief once it's all up and people are moved in and in our area. We'll see. It's a tough one, and then also I kind of got off Sunshine Realty, and then Twin State Paving. I also want to thank them for sponsoring the show. If you're looking to do any paving this summer, you want to get your driveway paved, you want an estimate or whatever, reach out to them. They're great. I've dealt with them on the sewer side of stuff, doing patches for me for when I've had to dig into roads or whatever. They've always done an awesome job. Good people, hardworking, local business, support your local businesses as much as possible. Try not to buy as much on Amazon. I'm sometimes bad with that because I don't feel like driving to Keene for something special. Like recently I bought a bag for softball, things like that, which honestly Dick's or Amazon, I'd probably go with Amazon because Dick's has stood up politically on guns and all this stuff, and I don't like to support that. But try your best to shop local and support local. Those people are taxpayers in town that contribute greatly to our success as a town and as a state. So yeah, either one of those. If you're looking for a house, or you need paving, reach out to Sunshine Realty or Twin State Paving, and they'll hook you up for sure. And like I said, I'll try to get Teresa in here at some point. Steve will be back at the end of the month, so our first show, like in May, Steve will be here, and luckily he's back just in time for the Twisted Tea Cleanup Day, is what I like to call it, but the Newport Green Up Cleanup Day, which is on the 30th of this month, end of the month, 9 a.m. starts. You go down the common, they give you a route, they give you the bags, they give you the gloves, they give you everything you need. You pick a street you want to do. Usually if it's the street you live on, that's usually the street people pick. Last year we did Barton Whitney Road, which is where Steve lives. This year I assume we'll probably just do the same thing. I live up on Springfield Road, and I don't see as much trash, but if someone doesn't take that road, then maybe we'll jump on that too. But it's a really nice way to give back to the community. It's so simple. And you would think it's boring, and it actually was a lot of fun. It was a nice warm day. Hopefully this year will be the same, but just a couple hours, even if you just pick up in front of your own house, that's a huge help. We're trying to make the town nicer and no trash. There's so much trash on the side of the road. I just don't understand it. I mean, I guess as a kid, when I was a teenager, like I was guilty. I've thrown things out the window before, but then as you get older, and you're like, do I really want where I live to look like this, like trash? And then you do one of these, cleanup days, and you're like, wow, yeah, okay, let's never do that again. Which I haven't in many, many years, but you can throw your trash out like any gas station has trash. Usually like McDonald's, like all these places have trash cans. They don't charge. Just like put your trash in there. And so many beer cans. Like I saw Twisted Tea's like a common thing on this road, and Bud Light I'm noticing a lot, which would be interesting to see if that changes with the current things. Anheuser-Busch is taking these stands with political, hot topics. And I was talking to PJ Love, and he's like, yeah, they got like Nip Corner over here. And so it's interesting how different areas of town have different types of trash, but just bring your trash. Just, like, honestly, I'd rather see you, go to McDonald's and throw it in their trash bucket, or throw it, I don't know, like, you can't just bring your trash to a commercial place to throw your trash away. It's not legal, but man, just don't throw your trash on the side of the road. It's crazy. And don't drink and drive. Like, that's a lot of it. People are drinking these beer, like they're drinking beer, Twisted Tea, whatever, and then they throw it out the window because they don't want to get caught with it in the car. And it's like, you really have to, you can't just wait to get home to drink. Like, that could be a serious issue to think about if you can't wait to get home to have a alcoholic beverage. So the other thing I saw, that according to WMER, which isn't my favorite news place, but I do go there for my weather, the next 2 days, Thursday and Friday, it's going to be 80 degrees. So quite the jump from yesterday was nice, but it was super, super windy. We had softball practice, and it wasn't quite as bad as I think overnight, it was. But yesterday we went to Ocean State job lot and picked up a little greenhouse thing that, you put outside, and like we use string and stuff to hold it down. And it was actually still there this morning, surprisingly. Turned sideways a little bit, but we're trying to start our plants. Like, Steve's already started all his stuff, and so as long as Nikki takes care of it, it'll be quite high up and ready to go in the garden as soon as Steve gets back. But so my wife, and Adelina went to Ocean State yesterday. Steve's already talking about Ocean State. It has all the stuff, and originally we were going to go to Home Depot because we had to get a refrigerator that went bad on us, unfortunately. I had it fixed, and it worked, and then now there's like an electrical thing, and it's just time to get a new one. So my wife's like, she's like, I called Manny's, and they had some stuff there, whatever. So we went over there and bought one, and it's going to be here Friday, and it's actually pretty cool because $80 they deliver, but they take the old refrigerator, which I think it's like $35 or $40, something like that. It used to be. It could be even more now to get rid of it at Casella. So I was like, okay, that's a good deal. Didn't buy the super expensive fancy one this time because nothing lasts anymore. Like, our washers and dryers have gone through 4 of them in 5 years. And we bought expensive front load, the first ones, and then they went bad, and then we're like, no, just get the cheaper ones, because if we're gonna have to replace these every couple of years, I don't want to be spending $1,500-$1,600 on these. So yeah, we get that, and I was like, well, I know Home Depot has a lot of nice garden kind of stuff too, but Steve's always raving about Ocean State, and I'm sure it'd be way cheaper. So we went there, and then I found this greenhouse, $75, this greenhouse in a box. We put it together, and it's not like super heavy duty, but it should certainly do the trick as long as this wind doesn't eventually get to it and blow it away. So yeah, I look forward to starting our plants. And we went through, when Steve was over on Easter, we went through the selection of them I have, and he's like, all right, you should start these, wait on these will be fine, just stick in the ground when the time comes. And he's better at the stuff because he's much more, he researches and all this. I tend not to. But we got, our tomatoes and cucumbers and a ton of different things we're trying this year. And anyone out there can have a small garden too. Even if you have an apartment, you can put tomatoes in just a plant, a pot that's yay big. And, as long as it gets sunlight, and leave it out on a porch when it's nice, or outside and bring it in, I highly recommend it. It's amazing the difference food you grow and food you buy at a store. That's just my words of advice for that. So Monday night, the selectmen met. I briefly looked at it for just a second. Everyone was there, I think, except for Keith, because it wasn't a real meeting. It was just about this New Hampshire Power Coalition. And so if you want to watch that meeting, you go on NCTV, whether they go on their website or, I guess you go on their website, but it could also be I'm sure they'll be playing it throughout, the week, but you should check that out. It's important information, because at the deliberative session, the town manager said that everybody will automatically be enrolled in this, and then they'll mail you something where you can opt out of it, which, a lot of cases you could opt in and you wouldn't automatically be enrolled, but in this case it is. So, you should check it out and see if it's something you're interested in. I know someone had brought up like the New Hampshire Power, e-Power. There was something a few years ago. You go on a website, you signed up, and your power got reduced, and then Eversource was like, well, that's great, but I'll just increase the delivery fee, because there's no way around these things. It seems you're just screwed, right? It's like you need electricity. It's not a competitive market. You can't go with other people, and in a sense you can, right? You can get your supply from somewhere else, but the delivery will always be through them. So they just raised the delivery fee up, and hey, you were the discount you were saving, now you're not. And I'd asked that at the deliberative, like, Hunter, is this going to happen there? 30 towns have signed on. We're looking at signing on to this deal. It's for the whole community. And like you said, it very well could happen down the road. I mean, obviously he can't control that. None of us can control it. But if we get some sort of relief, I guess it's probably worth it in the short term. Depending on how long it lasts. But I think these things would hopefully last a little while. I know my light bills are averaging right around $700 a month. I've talked to other people, and it seems fairly similar. Like the rates like doubled, and some weird things too. Like 1 month I was like way under what I would thought I'd use, or maybe what I legit would use, and then the next month it was double. I'm like, nothing changed. Like I don't remember March being way colder than February. I know, interesting things, but check that out because it affects everyone in Newport. Now, if you're outside of Newport, you should look into this because your town may have already signed on for this, and you may even know about this, but I'm sure you can like Google it, and it should give you a list of the towns that have signed on. And I know that at the meeting they said there was 30 towns or 31 towns that have signed on to this, so I'm sure a lot of towns around us, have. I think it's great. The town's trying to do something to help us with our electrical rates. Whenever the town's looking out for its residents is what should be happening, and I certainly appreciate that. And I'm not going to hammer on this as some bad thing because I don't know that much about it. And like I said, watch that meeting, and also at the end of the month, I think it was the 24th. It was a Tuesday. They're doing a second meeting. Same thing. I'm sure it'll be on NCTV, but you also could go to the Selectmen's Room, sit there, ask questions. The guy zoomed in. Not really a fan of that. I feel like people should be in the room, but it works. And hey, if these people are offering this, and however we get the information, if we can get some sort of relief, it is what it is. So something else, I just got a lot of like headline kind of things to talk about today. To try to keep the show more interesting. Like I said, doing the show myself is not nearly as entertaining, I'm sure, as when Steve's here to do the show with me. But anyone that has Facebook, have you seen these free puppies? And they're Yorkie puppies. It's always the same thing. And I saw it again today on, I think it was What's Up Newport. Like, it's a scam. This has been going on for like a year now. Like, you'd see people would post like, oh, free puppies. And I don't know what the deal is. Like, I don't know what they're getting out of it. Like, I don't know if the trick is like, oh yeah, we'll mail them to you and we need money. I don't know if it's one of those typical scams or what it is, but if you see that at any point, it's a scam, especially the Yorkies. Now, I feel bad for anyone out there that's actually like trying to do something with Yorkies, but no one gives Yorkie puppies away either. They're probably at least $1,000 a puppy if you were to actually buy one, a legit full-blooded, which these are supposedly. Full-blooded dogs are not free ever. Like, people make money off these things. So, yeah, so that adds on there. So if you see that, it's totally a scam, and don't waste your time. Drinking more of this red dye that me and Steve talk about all the time. This Saturday, we've talked about it a few times, but it's the Discover Wild New Hampshire Day. Live animals, hands-on activities, and more. Fish and Game headquarters, and it's from 10 to 3. And there's no fee for this. So if it's something you're interested in with the kids or even just yourself, check it out. They do this once a year. It's usually a pretty big event. So, and then we've already talked about this, but the cleanup day, the Newport Green Up cleanup, is Sunday, April 30th, 9 o'clock. Like I said, you meet at the Common. You can pick a route. Usually the first 100 people or whatever, at least based on last year, I got like a free t-shirt, which you've seen us wear on the show before. Orange shirt. It's pretty cool. Like, everybody loves free stuff, right? You get a free shirt, you do the cleanup, and then I think they're going to do pizza again at the end of the thing. You'd meet at the rec center, and it's a good time. It's fun. Like, it really is. And I know it sounds so crazy. Like, how could it possibly be fun to pick trash up? But if you do it as a group, and I kind of like wandered ahead of everybody, but we just kind of made a big family thing out of it. Steve and Nikki, and actually his dog JJ was with us, and then like my family, and we just went and each took sides of the road and just kind of slowly went down the road and picked everything up. And it's crazy the things you find on the side of the road. Like, the girls were like seeing like needles, which we know what those are being used for, so I would probably just not touch those, I guess. I found like a pot pipe, which I thought was funny. Most people wouldn't throw those out the window, but some old tires, like I found in like a wet area. I'm like, well, hey, I see it. Let's pull it up on the road and at least I can get rid of it. I think there's still a mattress down on Route 11. If you go past Key Chevy on the left, if you're heading to Claremont, there was a mattress there that I had told Steve about it. And he was like, well, I think they probably blew off the car. Like, they lost them. Like, it doesn't look brand new. And if you lost your mattress, I think you'd go looking for it. But it looks like a twin or something, maybe like kid's bed. But usually the state picks those up, and I'm sure eventually when they're not doing other things, they'll swing by and pick them up. This whole week, like last week, they've been down on right around the mill building that we've talked about so much with the housing that's supposed to be going in there. They're like cutting back the bank, and yesterday they like replaced a drainage basin and stuff like that. So, which it's nice to see that, we have to wait in the traffic and have the delays, but it's nice when work's happening in your community, because then at least you see your tax dollars at work, which is nice. So it's not just some other place that we pay their taxes and there it all goes. So yeah, be very careful if you're heading out on Sunapee Street at all. Today they were setting up again, but right on that corner by Stone Vault and the big mill building, they've been doing a bunch of work in there. So, but the delay's been like very minimal. I've gone through there so many times because I live on Springfield Road, so I go through there, and it's been good. So, all right, some more national things. I have one funny little headline too, and a few different interesting things. But Monday, so I guess this was kind of like Congress forced his hand a little bit, but however it happened. But Biden signed into law HJ Res 7, which terminates a national emergency related to COVID-19 pandemic, which has been more than 3 years of, the 15 days to, stop the spread. 3 years later, they finally end the national emergency, which is interesting because in theory, this should then end the mandate, the emergency part of the vaccines that aren't fully FDA approved, which in theory then would mean they couldn't sell them until they have full FDA approval. But I don't know, whatever happens with that, I can't imagine anyone out there at this point, 3 years later, still like, oh, I think I need to get a booster. I need to I can't imagine. And if you're out there and you're like, yeah, I have to go do this, that's a bad sign because this stuff, first of all, doesn't do what they said it did. And then they coerce people into getting it. Like, oh, if you get it, you won't have to wear a mask and you won't have to do this. And we've all seen how that, went. And actually, on another positive note, Dartmouth Hospital is finally ended their mask mandate after 3 years. Like almost a full year after the rest of the world is, said, okay, we don't need to wear masks anymore. They're finally getting to that point. And a lot of people that were just refused to go to the doctors because I'm not going because I'm not going to wear a mask, which is interesting because my grandfather was kicked out of his appointment up there because he wasn't properly wearing it or whatever. And he's like, oh, I'm not wearing it. And then as soon as he found out my grandfather wasn't vaccinated, the doctor's like, well, you need to leave, which is illegal because under this, I think it's a federal law that no hospital can send you away and deny you care for any reason, financially or any other reason. And this was a heart doctor too. So of course my grandfather's like, yeah, whatever, I don't care. I don't want to go there anyways because it's my grandfather. He's just stubborn like that. But interesting, they're still playing that game. And this was like 2 weeks ago. And then now they've ended the thing anyway. So it's crazy. Excuse me. This is interesting. I didn't look fully into the story. I just kind of read the headline and thought it was funny, and I'll share it with you. And a Chinese man faced a $436 fine for scaring his neighbor's chickens to death. And he ignored the fine and did it again, which is interesting because I would have thought it would be, cats or dogs, right? I don't know if this took place in China. I'm kind of thinking it took place in China because you wouldn't really classify it as a Chinese man. Because would we really care who the person was that did this? So this was probably a story out of China, but I kind of thought it was funny. I got a little chuckle out of it. And I don't know, I have chickens, and I don't know what you do to scare them to death. I've had like animals go in and take my chickens and not scare the chickens to death. So it's interesting. So a few other things on here. National. Clarence Thomas responds to after new accusations claim that he violated law by accepting luxury gifts, which is interesting because AOC wants to impeach him. And if everyone out there can remember, AOC wore a dress that said tax the rich. It was this nice white dress that boom, tax the rich on whatever, which violated the law because as congressmen or women or senators, you can't accept gifts like that. Because anything you accept like that, like isn't just like the president. So, and this is kind of what happened with Trump on some of the stuff is he took things with him that should have went to National Archives. Wasn't necessarily anything top secret. It was just, letters from so-and-so. So any of those things don't actually belong to the president or these congressmen. They're actually property of the people they represent. That's why they can't accept gifts like the dress you wore, which is funny because rules for thee, not for me. She wants to go after Clarence Thomas for, I don't know, some GOP friend or whatever. They went golfing or they did something and supposedly he paid for it. he as in the GOP person, whatever, not Clarence Thomas. But it's just crazy. Like, I don't know. This woman is not the person to speak about, doing things by the book and right and wrong, in my opinion, anyways. But I'm sure it's just more distraction to distract you from something else that's happening. Another thing that was pathetic and interesting was Peter Dorsey, forces John Kirby into an alarming mission about the Afghan report, and then, the second reporter, bats clean up. Basically what happened was, if you've not seen it, John Kirby, who is the strategic communications person, coordinator for the National Security Council, had talked how the whole botched withdrawal from Afghanistan that we all witnessed and saw with our own eyes, because as they showed it, and we lost 13 service members. And if you remember, we talked on the show not long ago about the Marine sniper who said I had a shot at someone that literally was believed to be the target that had the bomb, and he could have neutralized them and potentially would have these 13 service members still alive. And he obviously was lost limbs, and it was just a horrible incident. But now this administration member from the Biden administration is saying that we didn't leave any weapons there. We didn't. It's all a lie. That like the videos we watched of all the armored vehicles and all the stuff we left, and all, it's all fake. Apparently, it didn't happen according to this guy. So don't believe your lying eyes, because no matter what, it's going to be misinformation if it is about the negative thing about the Biden administration. And then if it's about the Trump administration or Trump in general, then it is cold hard fact, no matter what it is. If you've not noticed this, you're not paying attention. Whether you hate Trump, like Trump, you still have to see what's happening. Honestly, as time goes on, I like Trump less and less, unfortunately. Unfortunately, because I feel like he could fix stuff, because he just doesn't care. He'll just go in and be like, I don't care about all this stuff, all this swamp connected. All these people are connected. All these people are the same people. Whether you vote left or you vote right on that national scale, it's the same thing. Republicans talk a talk. They never seem to back it up. We'll see what happens this term. I don't have much faith in it. And Democrats just kind of do whatever they want, which, I guess if you vote that way, they destroy so much of what they touch, but at the same time, at least they have the kahunas to just do stuff and go for it and say, yep, we're going to do this and we don't care what happens. Where Republicans will write a letter or we'll have a hearing about it, but then nothing else will happen. It's very pathetic, honestly. These people they're completely out of touch with who they represent. They represent us. They're supposed to be there doing what's best for our country. I would love to see our country actually be put first for once, because it's all about everything. It's about Ukraine. It's about everything. It's not about America. Never. Nothing about America. We have a huge drug issue. Huge drug issue in the whole country. Our border is wide open. You have millions of people flooding into the country, not checked, we didn't just make them citizens. There's a process to this stuff. And I have no problem with people coming in the country at all. Just come in here legally, do the legal process like all the other people that are here from other countries that are now citizens or whatever. They had to legally do it. That's why we have laws. Without laws, you've got nothing. Without borders, you have no sovereignty. You have nothing. It's nuts. When are we going to start spending money on our own people? Last show, we talked about the record number of ex-servicemen, veterans, women, men and women that served our country to protect our way of life, our freedoms, and everything. And they're committing suicide at an alarming rate. But when do you hear about that? Do you turn the news on every day? Do you hear that? Like, hey, what can we do? This is a serious issue. Do you hear about fentanyl and all these drug issues and the border? No. Depending on this news network, you'll hear a little more, a little less. At the end of the day, if you're a news network, you're about making money. It's the only thing you care about is headlines. You don't actually care about the country. Some of the personalities may actually care, but I think it's few and far in between now. Most of them are just kind of actors, actresses that just do whatever to make money, to make headlines. When are we going to start taking care of our own people? When? We're literally the world's baby daddy. We just, here you go. Here's your support and whatever, and doesn't matter. The United States, our roads are falling apart. Our trains apparently can't stay on the tracks. All these things. The same EPA that threatens Newport, saying that you will fix your sewer treatment plant, and yeah, it's $28 million, and we don't care that you're a small town and can't afford something like that. Okay, so that's the same exact group, the EPA, is then, oh, what happened in Ohio and Palestine? Palestine, no, it's okay. It's 250,000 gallons of vinyl chloride released into the atmosphere. Yeah, you did the best you could, right? Well, I think Newport's trying to do the best they can, too, because you can't afford that. But it's crazy. And the amount of bureaucrats that make your decisions, none of those people at the EPA are elected. They're just appointed, and then they're there for as long as they want to be there, I guess. And so they make rules and everything that, once again, they're not elected people. So, no, the government is supposed to be by the people, for the people, we the people. So out of touch. So I don't even know. You could throw dates at. When's the last time the United States actually represented you in your way of life? And probably going all the way back to World War II. Sad. Super sad. As you struggle to pay your bills, as you struggle to survive in this country, your tax dollars go to help other countries, help pay welfare and pension benefits to people of Ukraine, which I have nothing wrong with, the people of Ukraine, and I don't want to see anyone being just eliminated by somebody, but there's so much more going on there. This is nothing more than a laundering of money from sending to Ukraine, which has been known as the most corrupt country, at least in Europe. They're laundering that money back to the politicians in Washington. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. It's just a fact. You're going to tell me all the billions and we can't figure out the war. And then the new thing just came out. A bunch of their military people, heads up, are getting fired or quitting or whatever because they've been accused of stealing this money as well. It's crazy. So I guess ask yourself that question. Call Gene Shaheen and Hassan and Pappas and Annie Coster and be like, hey, if you're from New Hampshire, those are your representatives, right? If you're from another state, you should know who your representatives are. Call and ask them, hey, when are you going to start making decisions that are best for the people of my state or my country in general? They won't answer it. They'll tell you that they do, and they'll list off a bunch of little things. And it's crazy. I still believe in this country. I still believe in the people of this country, that if we come together, we can do anything. I truly still believe that. And I guess the day I don't believe that anymore is the day I won't do this show anymore, and I will just seclude myself to my own little property and protect my own family and do what's best for them, and to hell with everything else, I guess. But in the meantime, we have like a duty to our country, right? To some people serve, some didn't. I didn't serve in the military. Steve did, 25 years in the military. And so we all have to give in some way, and your tax dollars isn't, necessarily the way you're giving, because you're not giving, you're just being robbed. They're just taking it. There's no option. There's no, hey, we would like you to pay this. Would you please pay this? It's no, if we don't pay this, you'll go to jail. Oh, and then what are you going to do with my money? Oh, we're going to send it to Ukraine, or we're going to send it to Pakistan so they can do gender studies, because that's important, right? We'll send it here. We'll send it here. We'll do this. And then every so often, here in Newport, we give you a rec center. Oh, wait, we're going to get tax money back, and yay, and okay. So 31 trillion in debt in the country, but every senator has this little thing in their package of, here, you have this much money that's yours, and you can do what you want with it. And hey, I'm thankful that Shaheen's office is like, hey, we're going to do this Newport, New Hampshire. Great, because it could be Manchester, it could be anywhere, right? Anywhere in New Hampshire, this could be, and it's Newport, which, okay, that's great, but let's keep in mind that's just extra money that is adding to a deficit that we are all paying. There's no such thing as free money. It doesn't exist. No country sending us money saying, hey, this is from the United Kingdom, or this is from France. We want to help you guys out because we know you're struggling here in the United States. There's no help coming. We are literally the only help for the world, apparently, and you can see that with Ukraine because the other countries in the world, like, well, we don't know what to do. The United States usually handles all this stuff. And then you can see it by the United States. 90% of the money went to Ukraine, came from the United States. And the rest of the country, there's some other countries obviously tried to support and help, but nobody's coming to help you. Nobody. There's nobody. You know, what did Reagan say? The most scary words in the government is, we're here from the government and we're here to help. Or we're from the government and we're here to help. Yeah. That's the biggest falsehood there is. How about, we're from the neighborhood and we're here to help? Okay. I believe that. Your neighbors show up. Mrs. Smith, Mr. Jones, whatever, is struggling next door because they have a $400 or $500 light bill. Their medicine is out of control. The cost of food has gone through the roof. Like, we have to start taking care of our own people. And I really believe in community, and that starts in Newport, right? We do what we can do in Newport. If you're from a different town in Newport, get together with people in your town. How can I help Claremont? How, like, help your town? And then from there it can grow, right? Maybe then you go to your county, and then you try to go for the state, right? If enough people work together, we can fix these things. It's going to be a long time before you ever could affect the national level, but if you can at least make change in your town and in your state, I mean, technically, the power is all in the state to start with. It's how it's all written. It's state's power. The federal government is huge now. It's never supposed to have been this big, ever. And it's just been a way to control the people and to tax them and tax them and tax them. Like, the Boston Tea Party was over a couple pennies increased tax for tea. And the people said, no, we're not doing this, and threw the tea into the harbor to send a message. And then, you know, not long after the revolution and the whole thing, like, it was all about tax money. Like, no, this is supposed to be free. Now you're taxing us. And we're talking like little small amounts. If you look at now how much of your pay goes to the government, it's at least 28%. It depends on how much you make, depending on what state you live in. States like New York, no one can afford to live there because they take so much of your income. California, same way. Like, that's why a lot of these rich people leave California, because they're like, screw this. Why should I give 50% or more to the government? When, what did they do? What did the government do today to say, hey, you know what, Tim, go to work, and at the end of the week, we're going to, you know, steal at least 28+% of your paycheck so that we can do what we want with that money, and the rest you can try to, you know, support your family. And then, oh, that's right, now you have to register your car, that's another tax. Register your dog, that's a tax, $25. You know, these fees are taxes. So it's all tax. Your cell phone, look at your cell phone bill and how many taxes are in there. What did the government do for that tax? What did they do? And you can say, wow, you have roads, you have this. Yeah, but we paid for the initial roads, interstates, and all that like 50 years ago, a long time ago. Now it's like upkeep. It doesn't come from the federal government. Like, some of the money comes from the federal government, but your state taxes are supposed to pay for your roads and those things. And yeah, we get funding from the federal government, but if you aren't paying so much in your taxes, you wouldn't have such issues, because you could actually afford things, right? You could afford to do things. Up until 1913, I believe it was, there was no IRS. There was no federal tax. It was based off tariffs and stuff. So imports, it cost whatever the percentage was, but it was enough to fund the government. And granted, yes, 1913 to now, 110 years later, we have a lot more people and we're a lot bigger country. Like, I get it. But they're robbing you, and they're giving billions and billions and billions to other countries that don't represent you, that don't care about you. It's not okay. It's insanity. Moving on, a few other things. The Dalai Lama apologizes for kissing a little boy and asking him to suck his tongue. There's a video of this. It's quite disturbing. First it seemed like maybe kind of a cute little thing, and then it's just disturbing. I don't know what it is lately, but like, they're after your kids. If you don't see this, or if you don't have kids, maybe you're not even paying attention, but they're after your kids California's passing laws that under the LGBTQ blah, 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 you know, it's minor attracted people or whatever. So they're trying to make it so that, you know, you're 50 and that child's 12. It's perfectly legal and that's fine. It's happening. Look around. They're passing things. It's happening all the time. These sick bastards are coming for your children. Like this. Like, what the hell? The Dalai Lama, supposedly, you know, this head of the, was it the Buddhist faith or whatever? Like, I don't know. It's just insane. If you have kids, and I have kids, it's terrifying. And you try your best as a parent to do everything you can. And even the parents that try the hardest still find things, and things happen with their kids. And it's crazy because there's so much outside influence now that social media is trying to take your kids' attention. And then if the teacher comes to us in Newport at the last meeting, says there's 2 apps that she knows of, and I'm sure there's more, that kids have on their phone, young kids. One's like this rainbow thing, and this other one was like unicorn something. But basically they're apps about kids, like it's trying to like subliminal messages or whatever in it, like to kill yourself. This is on phones. And she's like, yeah, they make teddy bears that have like the name of this on there, and it's like this thing, right? What the hell? And then we hear about TikTok and how bad TikTok is, and we've talked about it, like it's a national security threat. But even more than that, in my eyes, it's your kids have 30 seconds, 60-second attention spans, and it's just constant. That's what this app is constant stimulation to your brain. Okay, that was fun. Now what's next? What's next? What's next? It's getting it so your kids can't function in any society at all, whether it's school or any part of society. If it's school, if it's home, whatever, it's constantly looking for instant gratification of what's next, what's next. And you don't think that's going to be an issue for your child down the road when they can't pay attention? Your kid doesn't have ADHD. Your kid has an attention issue because it's a stupid cell phone that you gave them, or tablet, or whatever that you gave your child for whatever reason. A lot of times parents are like, you know, they're at the age that, you know, phone's good because then I can get, if there's an emergency, I can get hold of them. Okay, I get that. I understand that. But they have plenty of programs out there where you can ban any of this stuff on the kid's phone. So it only works as a cell phone, or it only works as, texting, and then text messages go to the parent's phone to make sure, like, if you think your kid's out there and you have good kids, and a lot of us had good kids, it's sure, absolutely. Not every kid's bad. My God, like, no, we love our kids. There's so many good kids out there. But if you think because my kid's good and my kid doesn't get in trouble at school, my kid has good grades, that they're not going to get in trouble, or they're not like doing things on their phones that you don't know about, you're sadly mistaken. Because it used to be, in order for a predator or whatever to get to your kids, they'd have to actually physically come to your child, whether it's someone you brought into your home, someone they met at school, met in society, whatever. That's how they're in. Now you invite the whole world right here in that phone. That phone has access to any place in the world. And there are people out there every day after your kids, whether it's for sexual purposes, whether it's for drugs, whatever it is, like, or if it's just innocent stuff that's screwing with your kids' minds because now they don't have an attention span to pay attention to anything. How do you think that's going to work down the road when they have to go to work? Well, 8 hours at work, I would argue that a lot of places aren't going to let you have your cell phone, depending on what you're doing, of course, right? Some places may a little lax, but like the whole point of kids and is, you know, preparing them for life so that when they get out there, because at the end of the day, life's hard enough no matter what, and then you can be the best parent in the world, do everything you possibly can for your kids, and your kids still could get in trouble, your kid could still get hooked on drugs, like that's all a possibility. But if you're not doing the best you can now and watching what they see and what they're exposed to and really paying attention, if you really are naive and you feel like, no, my kid's safe, like too many parents now are just, well, I want to be my kid's friend. You're not your kid's friend. You're the parent. You can be friends with your kids when they're older if you want to be that like friend. That doesn't mean you have to be cruel to them or mean to them or super strict and all this, but you're not their friend. At the end of the day, they need to realize that if they mess up, you have a parent there that's going to be, there's going to be consequences, that the parent's going to be disappointed in them, and that, okay, how are we going to get through this? Still going to love your kid at the end of the day, but what are you going to do different so that your kid gets into the real world, as we call it, I guess, when, they get out of school, which is I hate that real world stuff, because the life they're living now is very real, and it's filled with probably more drama than they'll even have in the real world. But it's hard being a kid as it is. You have to watch your kids. You have to pay attention on their phones and and they're smart. There's so many apps out there now. Snapchat, like I have Snapchat. I snap some of my kids and my wife and a few family members, whatever. You send a picture, it disappears, or, it all disappears, which I don't care personally about that part. But it's cool, right? Take Snapchats, filters, whatever. Well, remember, your kids do this, and the pictures they just sent to this boy or this girl or this person or whatever, like, kid can screenshot that, and now the disappearing thing, or like the WhatsApp app, which they've gone to Google, I believe it was, and said, hey, like, this is used by child predators all the time because it literally disappears and it's not traceable, whatever. And Google's like, well, it's not our problem that people aren't using it responsibly, which you could argue that too. I get it. It's a free country, but this is about parents, and parents being responsible and do the best you can, because even though at the end of the day you're going to try your hardest, some try harder than others, there's still going to be something there. Like, you have to give your kids the best opportunity possible, because when we grew up, things were scary. Well, it's way, way, way worse now. It's scary, and it makes you want to give up, but you can't, because your kids depend on you. And I have a 3-year-old, I have a child on the way, like, scared to death. Like, what's the world going to be like for them when they become adults, or even when they get into higher up in school, like high school, middle school, whatever. It's scary. Like, it's so scary. So one of the things I want to do, and we talked about this a while ago, but I really want to get a bunch of people together in our community, and kind of like a committee, I guess. I don't know. I don't like the word committee, but just a group of people to get together that have ideas, and like, we come together, we meet, I don't know, whenever, just have paper, pen, write down, hey, let's try this. Let's get it more involved, because, for instance, the rec center, many people are for it, many people against it. Here's my take on that, okay? Now, first of all, if it's free, in the sense that it won't cost us money, except for, yes, I'm sure in the end it will end up costing more for heating or whatever. The bill will cost more, right? Here's the deal, and this is the part that people forget. So if you put this in town, and I would certainly assume with this in town, a new place that's sufficiently sized that people can go there, because if you've been to the rec center in Newport, it hasn't changed in more than 30 years. They still do the best they can do with what they have, but I would assume that there'll be much more offered at that rec center. So if your kid's at the rec center, that means your kid's not running the streets or hanging out with friends that potentially expose them to things that you don't want your child exposed to, whether it's drugs, whether it's sex, whether it's whatever, the kids can get in trouble, right? So when your kids are busy doing positive things, usually the outcome will be positive. If your kid's not supervised, hanging out with the wrong crowd, whether you're a kid or an adult, if you're adults and you hang out with the wrong people, you'll notice that maybe you start to change. I see it with language all the time, depending on who I hang out with. Like, I never use the word hun ever, but my wife uses it all the time, so like I picked that up. So you hang out with positive people, you tend to be positive. If you hang out with negative people all the time, you tend to be negative. So there's people that will bring you down, and there's people that will help bring you up. So, your kids being at the rec center, doing activities with other kids in a positive manner is only going to help our community. So the flip side is, you don't have that. You don't have more kids going there. You have more kids out on the street. So now you have more kids potentially being exposed to drugs, getting hooked on drugs, and either way, you're going to pay for this in society, whether we have a huge drug issue and now people are stealing your stuff and you're paying for it that way and it's not safe anymore, or you pay through your taxes for a rec center, or We have additional counseling at the school that we pay for with our taxes. Either way, you're going to pay for it. No matter what, you're going to pay for it. So we have to ask ourselves, do we want to pay for it in a positive way, or do we want to pay for it after it's too late in a negative way? Because the reality is, no matter what, you're going to pay for it. You're going to. And I'm not for all this tax. We pay so much in taxes. But those taxes should be going to something positive. And if they're not, that's a serious issue. And that's what we need to be addressing here. So, as far as rec center, you look at it that way. Like, okay, if I can save kids from being on the street or getting in trouble or getting hooked on drugs, it's worth it in the end. It's worth it. That's just my take on like the rec center and those kind of things. But I really want to form a group of people that get together and come up with different ideas that we have that we could use to better our community. Whether you might be like, hey, I have no children. I've never had children. That's fine. I guarantee you have something that you could offer that's like, why don't we do this in town? Or I used to live here and they did this. Like, this would be a great idea, because Newport's special, and I love Newport. All the negative anyone wants to say about Newport, the positive. I love Newport, and I think we have a very unique small town that we all have a big part in, where other places like Manchester, like if you're just one person, you're just one person. It's too big. You're nothing, right? I mean, you could be there, live in Manchester, go to the mayor or whatever city person that runs the city manager, whatever they have down there. You think it's going to be the same as Newport? We could just literally go up and you can talk to the town manager, love him or hate him. He's always willing to talk to you. Like, I've heard it a million times. Like, he will. Or you want to talk to the chief of police or the fire department. Like, it's all right there. It's easy. And your voice is heard, right? When you get into bigger places, it's not heard. It's not. I mean, if there's 1 million people in your city, you're just a small number, where it's like 7,000 people in Newport. And so I really want to get a group together that like talks about things we can do, plans we can put forward to help children especially, but to help our community, to help our elderly people. Like I said before, no one's going to come bail you out. No one's going to bail me out. No one's going to bail us out. It's not there. It's not going to happen. It's not happening. You don't have another country that's like, hey, United States has been struggling. I think we're going to send all this money. And if they did, it's just going to go to the government to piss away what they want to spend on. So we need to come together as a community. Like, a person's struggling. Okay, well, great. We need to form a group that's like, all right, so-and-so, like, struggling. That mom doesn't have clothing for their kids. Okay, well, did you know that you can go to the SAU and they have vouchers there? And they're $25 vouchers, and depending on your family and whatever, will depend on how many they give you, you can go to the thrift store in Newport, which does have some really nice clothes, because people donate there, and let's face it, we buy, especially younger the kid, it seems, my daughter has all these clothes, and sometimes they wear them once, sometimes they never wear them, they're brand new, and it's like, well, what am I going to do with this brand new clothing piece? Hey, let's donate it to the thrift store. So there's that as an option, right? We do have a food pantry in town if you're struggling with food, and I don't know the hours and stuff on that, but if you call the town office, I guarantee they'll have all that information. So let's get together and come up with a plan, more ideas about what can we do about the drugs in town? What can we do about the kids that are out of control? How can we help out some of these parents that are struggling? How can we help out our elderly residents that have to decide between eating and heating their home or their medicine, or like, what can we do about that? There's something we can do. There has to be. There always has to be hope. If there's no hope, then there's nothing. We got nothing left. And at that point, we got nothing. So we have to have hope that we can make things better. But I can tell you, the hope's not going to come in the way of the federal government or even the state. We have to do it. It's our country. It's we the people. We need to stand up. What can we do? Start small. What can you do if it's just in your group of friends? How can you help out some of your friends? We all have people we know that are struggling, right? So I really reach out timandsteveshownh at Gmail. Send me an email. Say, hey, Tim, I really want to get involved. I really want to help. I'm really inspired by this and all of the stuff that's going on in the world. There's so much negative. We talk about it all the time on the show. I go after the town for a bunch of crap that shouldn't happen. You know, if a good employee still works here that writes a fraudulent letter which disqualifies a community member who does a lot for this town. Matter of fact, I met with Josh Stevens yesterday because the softball field's getting redone at the school, the infield or whatever, and we just had ideas. I'm like, hey, we really should do this. And I was like, hey, when softball's done, like, we should get together. And it's like, I have a rototill. I could rototill this whole backfield. I know you have a York rake, or excuse me, like a Harley rake. You come in a smooth, like, things we can do to improve our community that we all can kind of contribute. And I'm telling you right now, you sent me a message last night at like 8 o'clock. It's like, yeah, I'm the, on the public eye, like, looks like Stevens is, his company, and apparently they're bad because the town's, screwing with him, whatever, and he's out grading the road so that the residents on that road have a smooth road, basically just doing his part. That's the type of people we need in our community, and those are the people I'll fight for till my last breath in this community, because I see it myself. And this community, whether it's Carroll Concrete or United Construction or Ellie Weed or La Valleys or Brugger's or Harrington's or any of these businesses, they step up all the time and they send money for the school. Bar Harbor Bank does a ton. Sugar River, all these community businesses constantly are helping out our community. Some people don't see it as much because if you don't have kids in school, you don't realize that, hey, La Valleys did this and all these different things. But these are the people we should want in our community that constantly are like, hey, how can we help out? It costs money to do these things and just to come do them, right? Now, the softball field is a legit job. It was bid, and, he's getting paid for it. But then I talked to him, and it's like, there's extra stuff that's totally not in the scope of the job that he's supposed to be doing. The base is like, there's concrete under there and it's broke. He's like, yeah, I'll take care of it. I'm not charge the school more money. He's just going to do it because that's what he does, because it's a community. That's what we all need to do. Now, we all can't do the same thing, right? We all don't have, there's groups that have donated to the CTE that, here's X amount of thousands of dollars. Like, we all can't do that. I get that. I'm not asking anyone to do something like that. All I'm asking for is some of your time and, hey, what can we do to make things better? And I don't care, like, if your education's great, like your college education, it's like way above mine, or you're a dropout from school, or you're low class in the sense that your, income is, poverty level, or you're a multimillionaire. Like, none of that matters. Everyone has something to offer. Everyone has something they're good at that they can offer. And maybe it's just your time. Maybe it's like, hey, I'll go help with this. I have got some spare time. Like, these are the things I'm talking about to make our community better. So please reach out to me. I'm gonna very much push this hard for now on. Going forward from today forward, because it's so important. It to me, it's very important. I spend a lot of time on these things that I don't obviously get paid for, and there's no benefit to me. I don't benefit personally out of any of these things, except I want my community better. I want a better life for all of our children, especially my own, obviously, but every kid. I want a better environment for everyone in our community. I mean, honestly, in our whole country as a whole, but we can't save the country. We have to start here, and if we can get people all over the country to do this, start in your town, then you do change. That's how it's done. This country was founded on you could do anything, and I still believe that. Anything. Look at World War II. Men went off to fight wars. Women who are always in their homes, that's what they did. They're home, stay-at-home moms that literally ran the home while dad was at work, whatever. Well, now dad's off fighting this world war. Women went to factories and built planes and tanks and all this stuff that they never done any of that before. Well, they did it Why? Because we can do anything in this country. Anything we need to do, we can do it. I still believe in that dream. And I think we have to start showing it, and we have to show our kids that you can do anything if you put your mind to it and you fight for it and you work hard for it. There's nothing that you can't do. So please reach out and let's get something going here, and let's make our community better. I should end on that note because it's very positive, but there's two other things I want to talk about. They're lighter things than, not super serious. But actually one other thing, because one was kind of serious. So we'll talk about this last one. So kind of close to home, and I had it once I saw the headline, I had to open it and see what it was about, because I can only imagine what kind of craziness had happened. But 10 children were sent to a hospital over a TikTok challenge at a Massachusetts grade school. And so as soon as I read that, I'm like, my goodness, there was a TikTok challenge that was like destroying bathrooms. I believe the Tide Pod thing was like all these crazy things that we've heard about over the last few years. I can only imagine now what this one is. This one's not as bad, but probably equally as dangerous, even though you might not have thought so at the time. But a student apparently brought in extremely spicy gum to school and gave it to others during recess. Orange Fire Chief James Young Jr., so right down Orange, Mass., which isn't far from here, said the gum was rated at about 16 million Scoville units, which is a measurement of pungency of spices. So there was a show on TV. I'm trying to think what it was. Man, now I can't remember. It was like a wing show, and basically you're competing with the other team, and it's super spicy. Well, the Scoville scale for them went to 2 million, which is typically like there's nothing over 2 million. Well, this is 16 million. So, which is basically the equivalent of what's commonly referred to as pepper spray. So it's very spicy or hot agent that kids are exposed to and cause skin irritation, but obviously respiratory and airway inflammation. So the children are obviously fine, but they had to be brought to the hospital. But these are one of these things too, like talking to your children about things, like seems innocent. I'm sure the kid didn't intend on getting anyone hurt. I mean, we've done that one chip challenge before. I haven't, because I'm kind of a baby when it comes to like super spicy things. But like my son Adriano can eat almost anything. It's crazy. But I think him and Lydia did the chip challenge, and actually Andrea's niece Lindsay was down and took a small piece of it. Like, but that challenge is like, it's still within that Scoville, 2 million. I don't even think it's that spicy, but this is 16 million. Like, that's 8 times what that scale usually goes to. So the hottest pepper in the world is like 2 million. This is 16. So it's like a combination of, basically they're chewing pepper spray. It was just in gum form. It just kind of comes back to like, talk to your kids and see what they're doing. Someone probably thought it was a good idea. It was funny, but in this case, it became extremely dangerous because it causes respiratory and airway issues. So it's a lighthearted story because no one was really hurt in this incident, but kind of goes back to, hey, like, you really need to know what your children are exposed to and doing. The one chip challenge might not have been a huge thing, but to the wrong kid, it could be if they got some sort of allergy too, you don't know about. But this one was a little bit on the extreme side. So, with that being said, hopefully I made it through the show today. Like I said, I apologize. It's a lot tougher with Steve not here. A lot tougher. And we've only been doing this for a year, so this isn't like our professional background. I have a background on video stuff, but it wasn't really on this side of the camera. It was ours on the other side, or editing. So I plan on doing a show tomorrow. And then Friday I've got a job I got to do with my brother, so we'll shoot back for next week. And then, like I said, I'm hoping to have some guests come in next week, talk about some serious stuff, talk about some not so serious stuff, and try to give the viewers a wider variety of stuff than just me and Steve, and then just me, and then we'll definitely call in to Steve. Maybe I'll talk to Steve and say, hey, tomorrow I want to do the show. I want to have you call in and just give us a little update. How's the weather in Texas? I'm sure no matter what, tomorrow with the temperatures, we won't really be jealous. A lot of times it'll be cold here and Texas will be warm, and I'd be very jealous that he's enjoying that. But next 2 days we should be good. Or Thursday and Friday, but even today it's supposed to be in the 60s. Yesterday was beautiful until that wind picked up, but it was still pretty nice. So thanks for watching the show. Please reach out, email timandsteveshownh@gmail, message me on Facebook. After that last school board meeting, I had a bunch of parents reach out to me on Facebook having issues with school and like, hey, can you help me? There is a process. You need to go through the process, but I don't want to discourage you from reaching out to me. Reach out to me because you may be told the same thing. You need to go through the process, but I also can usually go directly to the top of the chain and say, hey, there's something going on here, and make sure that things don't get overlooked. Or because at the end of the day, sometimes that they're crazy busy. Like my wife will get upset. She doesn't get an email back from the principal. I'm like, I've been there before, and sometimes it's nonstop. Like they don't take a break because there's so many things happening, and so sometimes I think it's simple as that. Like they're overwhelmed with so much that's happening. I don't think these administrators or teachers or anyone are really just like, screw it, I don't want to deal with this person anymore. I mean, I'm sure there's a few instances that it could be because they've dealt with Mrs. So-and-so a million times, but for the most part, it's just usually there's just so much going on. But if you have an issue and you're not getting results, you can always reach out to me. You can reach out to any school board member too, send them an email. I just tend to be more like active with things because things happen in my kids' school and I want it resolved. And so it's very personal for me. I still have kids in school and I try my best. Cannot promise you the results you're looking for, but I can promise you can always reach out. I'll listen. I'll do the best I can possibly do to help you because it's the only reason I'm on the school board. There's no other benefit to it in any way except hopefully you can make some sort of change. So thank you very much. Be kind to one another. Ask your neighbor if they need something. Talk to people. Like, we're so negative as a society now. Like, open a door, hold the door for someone if you're leaving a store today or whatever. And thank you once again for watching the Tim and Steve Show. I'm Tim Beard, and we'll talk to you tomorrow.
The blood till I see the golden gates. Troubadour and troubled souls, one of God's servants. Blades out, cut the grass till we see the serpents.
One day I hope you see the truth. This puppet show stays on because of you fools.